most of the time when we get called in, the person on the other end's close. Then they
at the table, please. We put agendas around the table so that we could have a discussion after we do our presentation. We thought it'd be great if you could all see each other as you're making your comments. So I'm Linda Cohen. I am the Economic Development Specialist for the City of Auburn, and I want to welcome you all to the city. Some of you probably don't get up here very often. Some of you are probably working here and get here quite frequently, but it's a beautiful city with a gorgeous river across the street. You're going to see some really beautiful pictures of what the city of Auburn is like, other than what you might see just driving through the turnpike to go to your next destination. I wanted to do a few housekeeping bits. The restrooms, if you didn't see them, are right outside the door here on the right. And there is food and coffee. Please, please, there's decaf, there's regular, and there's some water. Please eat, because what you leave behind, the staff is going to eat, and we really don't need it probably. Also, hopefully everyone got a badge. If you would leave those with me in the box by the door when you leave, that would be appreciated. And with that, I'm going to turn it over. We have a short video that we're going to show you, and then we'll get into our presentation.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Labonte, and I'm the mayor of the City of Auburn. The City of Auburn is Maine's 5th largest city, and along with our sister city, Lewiston, on the east side of the Androscoggin River, we make up Maine's 2nd largest metropolitan area. And by living in a city, what that offers you is the types of arts, culture, dining options, recreational choices that you'd really look for the kind of quality of life, either whether you're a young professional or a family. The beauty of Auburn is that Auburn's truly a 4-season community. In the summer, we have paddling and hiking along the Androscoggin and Little Androscoggin rivers. We've got great fishing in Taylor Pond and Lake Auburn. In the fall, foliage hikes, foliage drives around the lake. In the winter, there's snowshoeing, Nordic and downhill skiing at Lost Valley. And in the spring, obviously a chance to get back outdoors and start your gardening. So very few cities in Maine can offer the types of 4-season access that Auburn can. One of the great things about Auburn is that while we're a small town for New England, our position in southern Maine puts us within a 50-mile radius of over half of the state's workforce. So you can rest your business here, you can hire locally, but you also have the opportunity to recruit talent from the greater region that we're part of. Whether you're looking for a community to live, work, play, or learn, Auburn can offer something to everyone. The young family looking for great schools and affordable housing, the business owner or young professional looking to create opportunities to grow and innovate, or the student looking for a community where you can move to, you can learn and be part of an entrepreneurial environment. Auburn can offer you a place.
So that was our mayor, and he's on the agenda, but that was his wall.
Morning, everyone. I'm going to be brief. You don't want to hear from me. There's a lot of good information from our staff, and they've taken a lot of time to put this agenda together. And I think the most important part that I'm really excited to hear is to hear from all of you. We're looking for that feedback. We're looking to move Auburn forward from our economic development standpoint, and really how do we improve, and that your feedback, your expertise is critical for my staff to be able to continue to make the progress and continue to build on the progress we've already made. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it right back over to staff. Welcome, thank you for coming, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy days.
Thank you, Dennis. Michael? This is Michael Chamings, the Director of Economic and Community Development.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the City of Auburn, and thank you for taking your time out of the day to come here. If you see our agenda, as you notice, the bulk of it is going to be a roundtable discussion, because one of the biggest goals we had is to get input from the people that are here. We're going to be going over our programs, some of the tools we have, and the planning and permit overview process, and some of the projects we have going ahead of that time. We have a talented staff here. I've been here about a year. I'm very impressed. We keep advancing with our GIS systems. We have a lot of good projects coming into Auburn, and a lot of debate on what economic development is, and we're not here to debate that. One of the largest things we're looking at is how you can use us for a vessel as businesses. So basically, my stance on economic development, not economic growth, is to help or get out of the way. So that what I was tasked with when I first came to work here is to make Auburn a user-friendly city, and I think we certainly have the staff and the capability of doing that. We're going to start out by having an overview from our CDBG program with Yvette, and she's listed for 5 minutes, but we just want to make you aware what's out there. And so all these reviews that are listed at 5-10 minutes, they're probably not going to take that long. We just want to make you aware what we have and to see what the need is. We do have some things that are not listed on here, which we talk about during our roundtable. Obviously, we're having problems now that 10 years ago would be a good problem, is the workforce. We tend not to have enough skilled labor in. And what happened years ago is we put a lot of energy into educating our children, and we didn't match it up with industry, and then it led to a brain drain. A lot of children, when they graduated, became educated, they couldn't match up the skills and they left. So we're obviously looking at correcting that. We can't do the work for the whole state. With that, I welcome you to our roundtable.
Okay, we're going to start the actual presentation up here. The first person who's going to talk to you about some of the programs that the City of Auburn has for neighborhoods, for businesses, is Yvette Boutneau.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Yvette Boutneau, and I manage the community development programs. These are federally funded programs. We receive these funds annually from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and we have approximately $970,000 available to us annually. That's a combination of the entitlement we get from HUD and also program income that we get from our loan portfolio. The Community Development Block Grant is the most versatile pot of money that we have. We use the funds for financing new and expanding businesses, and we also do rehab of commercial properties. We do public improvement projects, and we demolish blighted properties, and we do rehab of private residential buildings as well. We also provide funds to the public service agencies in the area to help people transition out of poverty. Our home program is the more stringent of the two programs, and we can only use these funds involved with affordable housing. Two of our newest programs are the STAR Business Loan Program and the Neighborhood Challenge Grant, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a few minutes. The map. So our programs are focused in these areas here. We have 3 target areas, and this here is our New Auburn target area, and it's bounded by Mary Carroll Street here and 7th, and all the way, it includes Newberry and Laurel Avenue. And then in the middle there in the purple is the downtown area, and then way over is our Union Street target area. So this is where the majority of our funds are invested. The CDBG program offers a variety of loan and grant products. The owners of rehab residential multi-unit buildings can borrow money from us at attractive rates and terms. Our interest rates range from 0 to 6%, and we also offer forgivable loans for a portion of the project costs, and then we have grants for exterior rehab work. Deferred loans are available for our neediest clients, while emergency loans are also available citywide. And those emergency loans would mean like they have no heat in their home, or they have no water, or maybe a leaking roof. And we also finance major rehab projects in our residential buildings downtown. The home program can be used in 3 ways. We can use it for the development of affordable housing projects. We can do homeowner rehab, and we can do home buyer assistance. We recently awarded $250,000 to Auburn Housing Authority for an affordable housing project on Spring Street. This is going to be a 42-unit mixed income building, and it'll have commercial space on the first floor as well. All the loans in this program are 0% or forgivable when it's used for home buyer assistance. Next is the STAR Business Loan Program. Now, this is one of our newest ones. We just rolled this out in the fall. The goal is to fill up our vacant storefronts in the downtown areas while creating jobs. It's funded with $200,000 of our CDBG funds, and we plan to replenish that pool of money next year when a new budget rolls out. And since we've introduced this program, we've received 5 applications, so we're really excited. It seems to be very popular. And here are some of the criteria. So each applicant can apply for up to $50,000. It must be matched 50-50. Eligible for businesses, new or expanding businesses, and property owners who want to fix up the building, the storefronts, so they can entice new tenants to come in. We have the low interest rates, and it's a forgivable term. And the biggest reason we do this is to create jobs. We want to bring people into our downtown. And finally, I have the Neighborhood Challenge Grant. The focus here is on neighborhoods. We want to make them safer, and we want to make them more attractive. So we encourage neighborhood groups to apply, and staff is here available to help them develop the projects if they need help. We have $25,000 available in the fund right now, and we accept applications of $1,000 up to $10,000 from each applicant. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. And now Eric Cousins is our Deputy Director of Economic and Community Development. He's going to go through the planning and permitting overview.
Thank you, Linda. How many of you have already done projects in Auburn in the last 5 years, or worked on a project in Auburn, whether that's financing or any other portion? A couple of years ago, there was an article in Maine Biz about average permitting time in the Portland area, and our council quickly jumped on us and said, are you guys taking that long to issue permits? And we looked at the average wait times in Portland were, I think, around 75 days for commercial permits. We keep track of our wait times in Auburn, and for commercial permits, we average for renovation permits about 8 days, and for new construction commercial about 12 days, so substantially faster than that. We've over time worked with our planning board to allow staff to have more authority for reviewing projects, and in Auburn, we're able to, within a commercial or industrial subdivision, we're able to approve almost any use at a staff level. We did a 100-room hotel approval in less than 14 days after the subdivision was approved. Unfortunately, that one didn't get built, but that's the type of turnaround that we can have if you're building in approved subdivisions or parks that the planning board's already reviewed for traffic. So we worked really hard to have a business-friendly approach to development. If you have preliminary plans, we can get together a team of whatever departments you need to go over the project, give you preliminary input, hopefully save your design folks some time, and save you some money in getting the projects approved. We do have, I mentioned the multi-department team for project reviews. That's available for pre-planning a project or during approval. We provide comments back to the planning board or staff for a local staff approval. We are always available to help find sites in Auburn. A recent example, Krispy Kreme was looking around the area for a site. We put together a GIS mapping application that was customized for them that highlighted traffic, inbound traffic in the morning versus outbound traffic in the evening. And all the sites that we knew were available, some of those were listed, so they would have had easy access to those sites. Some of those were not actively listed, but we knew that they were coming into play or already in play without being out there to the general public. They quickly selected a site that we were really happy to see demolished. It was the old Paris Farmers Union site on Center Street, and they should be open in May with 4 other tenant spaces. But we're always happy to try to help you make a quick decision, give you all the information you need to choose a site in Auburn rather than somewhere else. The city also has delegated review authority for site location of development or site law, stormwater, and traffic movement permits. For those of you that have done larger projects, either exceeding 100 vehicle trips in the peak hour for a traffic permit, over an acre of impervious area for stormwater, or over 3 acres of impervious for site law, you know those reviews at DEP can take upwards of 6 months sometimes. I think they tell you to count on 6 months as a good guideline. We can turn those around as part of our planning board process. So typically, if we received an application on the deadline, we would have an approval about 30 days after that. And that could include the local planning board approval, whether it's a subdivision or a site development, the state site location permit, the stormwater permit, and the traffic permit in approximately that timeline. So a much more predictable and easier process. It feels like a single process for the consultants and the developers instead of dealing with multiple agencies. We also charge much less for those approvals. Site location of development, stormwater, and traffic could easily cost you $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, even $30,000 at the state level for a larger commercial subdivision. We charge $1,000 for any or all 3 of those reviews here in Auburn. So whether you need just one of those or all 3 of them, it's a $1,000 flat fee, and we think that's a good incentive to try to minimize your upfront investment so you don't have to carry that expense for a long period of time through an unpredictable process. We can give you more certainty. That's about all I have on the planning and permitting overview in Auburn. And looks like Michael Chamings is up next to talk about some opportunities and projects here in Auburn.
Feel free to pretend this is a question and answer section. I do much better with that. I don't ever write anything down. I do everything off the top of my head. Probably the 2 questions I get asked the most, and the first one being, when is Krispy Kreme opening? That's pretty important, I guess. I do get asked that a lot. We think by May, and Taco Bell should be open in the next couple of weeks, but to get that out of the way. The most question I get asked the most, probably in the last year since I got here, is Miracle Enterprises and Chinese investments into that property. The state of Maine has, the federal government has an EB-5 program, and the state of Maine has been working on having a regional EB-5 program that was supposed to be completed months ago. They continue to push that forward where it's still not into place. They have a director there and they have the people in that program, but it hasn't been completed. And the EB-5 program, if you're not aware of it, it's a foreign investment incentive. So if you come from other countries and you invest a certain amount of money and create a certain amount of jobs, you can get a green card and other incentives. By far the largest user of the EB-5 program in the U.S., and probably, I'm guessing around $8 billion in the U.S., has been the Chinese. And the Chinese market money has been decreasing. It's why they've invested a lot in the U.S. market is because to hedge some of their funds and future investments. So China recently, after their money dropped about 30-40% in value. The Chinese government real recently has put restrictions, a lot of restrictions on money coming out of their country. They had some before, but they weren't as strict as they are now. So basically, a lot of investments that you've seen, they've relied on that. The Miracle Enterprise building has some funding already put into place already because obviously it was purchased and surrounding property was purchased. And they also have people that have offshore money. That's not an issue with that either. But you're going to see some of these investments dry up that's coming in from China until they lift those restrictions. We had another piece of property that was purchased, which was the Prospect Hill Golf Course, and the gentleman that bought that is Mr. Wong. He's a senior senator over in China, which is considered a congressman, and he cannot have a green card, so the EB-5 program is not a issue with him. He did want to invest in the U.S. His daughter goes to college here in Maine, went to high school, graduate, and she'll be going to college. So he's having a harder time now transferring the monies out to build up what he's looking at. They can transfer money out for agriculture. So China obviously has issues with their environment, with water and the land, so they're looking at importing more food. One of the big projects they were looking at along with the golf course was a mushroom growing facility, these facilities employ up to 200 people, and they're high tech, and they're both for medicine and for consumption. So we are still going to see, we do almost every 3 or 4 months have new groups coming in looking at investing in the U.S., but they into Maine, and fortunately a lot of them start right here in Auburn. But it is going to be slowing down, and Miracle Enterprises, Tony Yick, who's running that, I meet with him, I talk to him at least once every other week, and he's still actively pursuing that. It's just a matter of getting the investors lined up for it, and they were waiting a little bit for the EB-5 program to have that incentive, which has temporarily gone away. So that's where we're at with the Chinese investments, which have been very, very promising to us, and I think they're going to continue to be in the near future. Obviously, the municipality of Auburn, we have a lot of great projects going. We have a lot of infrastructure. The biggest thing with the government is to provide the infrastructure for people so their businesses can grow. As you know, we've stuck a lot of money into roads and sidewalks and sewer systems and water systems. The new industrial park, which is empty right now. It's for sale if anybody's looking for lots out there. But it's fully functional as far as three-phase power and sewer and water, and I believe that's in a free trade zone also. Is that true, Kevin? And Pine Tree Zone. So it's got a lot of incentives in that area. And also the town's intermodal facility. We've had increased interest in that facility. It took us a while to get ready to market it because we didn't have surveys done, and we need to do deed research. It didn't have great access to the property, so before we started looking into longer-term contracts with businesses, we wanted to ensure that we had that all put into place. So we had 3 or 4 different companies looking at either expanding there or moving into it, which is kind of exciting for us because around the state of Maine there's a lot of spurs that are sitting empty. A lot of the training system was built for the wood market, which has obviously decreased in the last 20, 30 years. I don't remember what else I have on the agenda to go over. I think that covers it for the intermodal site and foreign investments. If you have any questions on our business parks, the intermodal, or the Chinese investments, feel free to speak up. Yes, sir.
How much information do you have about next steps at did you call it the Miracle Center?
It answers to a lot of names, the Barn, Miracle Enterprise. And,
Miracle Enterprise. You know, renovation, new facades, you know, the next steps. Are we thinking 6 months or 18 months or?
Yeah, last time when push comes to shove, I said, what's your schedule on that? Was 6 months ago. He said they're still on a 2-year target for that. I don't think he anticipated the tightening of the funds coming out of China, the restrictions placed upon them. But a lot of the people that have the investment, some of it is out of the country already. It's twofold because when you restrict money coming out of a country, a lot of people that have offshore accounts are then not going to take that money and bring it back into the country. That restricts you to take it out. So they're more apt if they have offshore accounts to invest those money into infrastructure, into investments into other areas. But with that being said, it certainly takes the amount of people, because you know, China is now the billionaire capital of the world. It takes the amount of people that can take it out and cuts that by 80%. So they still have investment opportunities or some cash flow that's available for those projects, but it certainly slows it down. So as far as does he have a set time frame of when things are going out to bid and all that, they do not, but he said they're still set on a 2-year time frame.
Yeah, I used to be on the airport committee, and there was talk of the extension of the airport, the runway. I was just wondering, and I haven't followed it, and I haven't talked to Rick in a long time, but how close are we to possibly extending the runway? Because that was going to open up things into bigger planes being able to land there and whatnot.
Sure, I know they have some limitations there. We're fortunate enough to have Rick sitting here somewhere.
Yeah.
Rick, would you please come up and answer that question for the gentleman? Sure.
Right now, the airport's runway length is being dictated by the lack of traffic of a certain size. It's a very common catch-22 that we run into. We have to have the traffic already present in a certain quantity or more before we can apply to have a facility that can actually accommodate the traffic. So we've not yet met that requirement to a consistent manner over a period of years, and until we do, we won't be able to extend the runway. What we have done, though, is we've gotten a standard that is wider, that can handle heavier. We've just got the limitation until we can get a longer runway that the traffic will only be for dry weather or dry pavement type traffic. A high-speed jet can take off. Has to take off on a shorter runway. 65% of the runway is available to it. If the pavement is wet, snow covered, sand covered, anything else. Unless it's perfectly dry, it's only 65%.
This seems like a perfect example of if you build it, they will come. You know, planes are flying around up there, and the bigger the planes, they have to pick and choose where they can land.
Yeah, okay, so the FAA won't do that.
No.
They understand the concept, but they don't use that concept in a prediction kind of form. If you've got the traffic over a course of 3 or 4 years and it's consistently above a certain level, then they'll look at it seriously and consider funding for it. We're talking millions of dollars for the Little Short, because it's not just 600 or 800 feet more of pavement. There's other requirements that go all the way out, all the way from the end of the runway, in fact, in our airport, all the way to the Little Androscoggin River and beyond. And we've got houses and daycares and all that other stuff built into that area already, so we're limited.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. I didn't mean to put him on the spot, but I knew he could answer the question.
Can I ask a question regarding the airport? I've seen articles here and there about the significance of parents of youth camp attendees who fly in with their private jets to drop off their kids for camp. Is it really particularly significant, or is it just a phenomenon that people think is kind of interesting to write about?
In my opinion, it's both. We base some of our benchmarks on that activity. We call it corporate or business traffic. The type aircraft that we're trying to get to on our runway, in fact, is the very type of traffic that those parents are using in the summertime, that businessmen use during all year. That traffic is exactly our focus, our laser focus, if you will, of trying to build and get more significant at the airport. So it is significant. It is one of our benchmarks. It is increasing, but we're still not to the point that we've got the ability to consistently say that we can breach the limit, the boundary, if you will, of building larger. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, and none of those particular clients, the youth camp parents who are flying their kids in, none of the, you wouldn't say you're losing any of those parents because your airport is too small to accommodate some of their private jets.
Well, actually say that and be able to back it up, no, I couldn't say that.
Right.
What I can tell you is that I think there is a certain amount of cyclical activity there. We can predict on a particular weekend that it's going to be extremely busy, because that's also Parents' Day at most of the camps nearby. So we call it Campers Weekend. And that our airport exceeds its limitations at some point during that weekend. It's done it every year I've been here. So, you know, is it significant? Yes. Do we close a runway to park aircraft? Yes. So, you know, we're definitely inundated on that particular weekend. Now, you know, can we guess how many aircraft we're going to get that weekend? We cannot. We try to get involved in the whole entire summer camp experience. In other words, bringing the kids up at the beginning of summer, taking them home at the end of summer, as well as Parents' Weekend, so that it's a lot more uniform. It's also a better business for us to accommodate. But, you know, we haven't quite got to that point yet. So, was that?
Yep, very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Mr. Doug Green, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just chomping at the bit here. Well, good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Doug Green. I've been the city planner with Auburn for the last 3 years, and just recently took on a new position as urban development coordinator. I like to self-proclaimed, I called it that myself, but it's what I like to think of myself as, someone who can step in and work with folks like yourself to help coordinate and put everything together to make a project move forward. And this position was also created, I think, in part by the City Council's new focus on our economic development program. And so one of the things that came about besides some new positions is looking to reach out more like we're doing today. So I just kind of want to reiterate why we're doing this, and it's really important that we're getting together with all you folks, and we really appreciate you coming today. So I'm going to continue along with some other projects, and as part of my work, I've been working pretty much since I started 3 years ago on a new redevelopment plan for New Auburn. It's been in the works for 7 or 8 years, mostly at the planning level, but now we're actually moving forward with construction plans. We've received a grant to implement the first phase. So what you see right here is pretty much the existing New Auburn. The red areas are areas that are owned by the city. There's been a gradual series of land acquisitions to create the opportunity for a greenway trail along the Little Androscoggin River. We're getting very close to that. That would be the phase 2, is the greenway. So this slide here is showing the first phase of the New Auburn redevelopment plan. And what it involves is the beginning of a new riverway road right up here, as well as creating some new development space next to All About You and the Firehouse Grill, as well as a unified parking area to service both those areas. So we're already looking to start creating some new redevelopment opportunities. We have interest by both of the business owners in expanding, but again, this is the kind of thing we want to let you know about, that these things are coming on to the pipeline. We were able to get a grant to fund this phase, so we're looking to finish up our construction drawings this late winter, go out to bid, and get this portion constructed hopefully by the end of this year and be ready to start doing some expansions. We're also having, I didn't mention it, it's not on here, but we also are beginning work with a committee and also the Architecture and Civil Engineering program for Central Maine Community College to find a new home for the historic St. Louis Bells. And we think that's going to wind up being a really significant attraction and feature in this redevelopment. So we're real excited about that. This is a long-term vision of the new Auburn Village Center plan. Ultimately, you see that the Riverway Road is now completed from Broad Street over to Mill Street. There's a centralized parking area that has access at 2 points that could be closed off. That would open up, the Riverway Road could be closed for special events, farmers markets, art fairs, things like that. It would really expand the ability to work with the greenway and the trail system. It's a really beautiful location, and so we're real excited about that. Overall, at build-out, this would create some potentially 34,000 square feet of new commercial space. Of course, that's depending on the market. And then somewhere in the range of 68,000 square feet of residential space. There's a whole series of other redevelopment program elements that are the next tier surrounding here. So there's a number of street closures and other opportunities for redevelopment that we're real excited about. This is a great location. I'm here to pump this up for you today, but we're really excited about this project, and the people of New Auburn have been waiting for a long time to see this take place. So we're really excited to see the funding in place for Phase 1, and we're hoping to continue to work with our City Council to help us on the next phases. Here is just a rendering of a vision of what that the greenway meeting with the roadway with the new buildings for the redevelopment and what we're seeing out there right now. This has a lot of potential for a great new village center. Okay. Some other things that really are trying to focusing in on our downtown. We really want to see our downtown become a true downtown again. It's got bits and pieces left over from the days of old, but we think there's a lot of potential in downtown as well. You can see the area along Main Street just before you hit Court Street. One of the things that the city also and the planning department and the planning board put together was a new form-based code for all of downtown and the New Auburn area. This is the first city in Maine to adopt really a comprehensive downtown form-based code. You can see some of the graphic. It's a much more prescriptive, graphic-based regulatory system for new development. And one of the nice features about it, as Eric mentioned before, how we really try to expedite and facilitate the development process. If someone comes in with a proposal for under 12,000 square feet new square footage, and the application for the development would follow all the prescriptive rules of the form-based code, you would bypass at least a month or 2 months of development review. You wouldn't have to go to the planning board, and you could go right to the building permit stage. So that's just one of the many, I think, advantages that form-based code offers, as well as it's going to be a more predictable environment. When someone is developing next to you, you'll know what the building and the shape and where the building is located. You'll know that predictably where it's going to be. So again, a lot of good details in the form-based code that we're real excited about to see that guide our new development downtown. And it is based on traditional town planning, so it's going to wind up looking as much as we can towards what we have in place that we really treasure. And then, of course, we have a lot of good activities at Festival Plaza, and we're really trying to bring more activities to downtown. And then we're also beginning some new programming on infill and redevelopment. The city is right now looking towards inventorying our city-owned properties and coming up with criteria that can be used to selectively pick key properties, and there's some great properties downtown that you'll be hearing about hopefully in the near future that would be really great sites for redevelopment, for infill redevelopment. So the city's going to be letting everyone know about what those properties are once we get through a refined process. Okay. And then also just in another general direction that the staff is trying to move towards is more effort and focus on our neighborhoods. A lot of folks will talk about Auburn being a city of neighborhoods. Well, we want to work on that more. It's one thing to have a map of where neighborhoods are, but we are doing more outreach, going to neighborhood watch meetings and working with neighborhoods to find out what neighbors are looking for, what their concerns are, more than just crime and those kind of things. That's important, but we want to get more involved, help neighborhoods organize if possible so they can create more collective neighborhood associations, which are a real strong backbone of a strong community. And then also tying in with what Yvette is doing with the neighborhood grant program, the challenge grant program. We think that's another thing that we can begin doing special projects in neighborhoods that can really help them work together, bring together cohesiveness, and really beautify their neighborhoods. So, and then the other thing on something that we want to work harder on is letting the rest of the state and the region know how attractive our housing market can be because of the low cost of housing. Combined with our efforts towards rehabilitation of homes, we're going to bring back our housing stock, and we think it's going to be attracting new people. We really want to bring new people to Auburn. So I appreciate your time, and we will move to Eric.
Thank you, Doug. Doug highlighted the low cost of housing here. I would urge you to, if you're looking in southern Maine within a commute of Auburn, take a look at what you can get for a home in Auburn, and you can get a lot more than you can just 10, 15 miles to the south for the same price. If you could move one slide ahead. Auburn offers a lot of recreational quality of life amenities. We have the twin sheet ice arena. You see one of the sheets at the top of the screen there, the other sheet down at the bottom right. That offers a host of ice time for hockey games, hockey tournaments. We've really seen that impact the retail businesses around the mall area, with restaurants and retailers offering specials during those events and really seeing a boost in their business. One that kind of surprised me is TJ Maxx. I never would have expected to really be impacted by the arena, has changed their clothing line to accommodate more sports and hockey equipment because they saw a spike in demand for that. But a lot of the other retailers right around that area are doing well on those tournament weekends. On the bottom left is our indoor turf facility over at Ingersoll. Friday night softball games throughout the winter. There's leagues. There's rugby, soccer. All those options throughout the winter available, especially during the colder, snowier months. Gives kids and adults a place to get inside and recreate as if it's summertime. We also have batting cages there and have really started to shift the focus of the ice arena to also include other types of events. I think it's April 8th and 9th this year. We'll have the Maine RV show. That's a show that was typically held further south. That's chosen this facility to try it out for the year, and hopefully we'll continue to have that year after year.
And that's Pettingill?
That will be at the ice arena, the Norway Savings Bank Arena.
But that picture on the left is the Pettingill Arena?
Yes, it is. Yep, complete rehab on the inside, like I said, with batting cages and a full turf facility, and they're really a nice user-friendly facility. Outdoor recreation, if we could move to the next slide. Auburn offers a lot of outdoor recreation. We're about 67 square miles. 40% of the land is agricultural land here in Auburn and widely, lightly used for agricultural uses or forestry or recreation. The Riverwalk is the picture to the left. I would encourage you, if you have a few minutes when you're leaving here and you don't usually get out in Auburn, as you're going out to the parking garage, take a left, walk through that alley, cross Main Street, and just take a look at the views along the Riverwalk. It really has built a nice facility there that leaves an impression on people when they see it for the first time. It's worth a quick walk. We have a lot of paddling events on the river. It's outstanding fishing along the Androscoggin River, along in Lake Auburn, great salmon fishery. And Maine's newest state park is just to the north of us on the Androscoggin River, the Riverland State Park. And we're likely to eventually have a boat launch facility, hopefully in Auburn, that would support access to the state park by water. If we could advance. These are a couple of shots from Mount Appetite. Auburn has a lot of neighborhood parks, Mount Appetite being one of the biggest outdoor parks in Auburn, totaling over 300 acres, has a lot of, you can see some of the quarries in the bottom, but great year-round recreation, great mountain biking in the summer, hiking in the summer, snowmobile trails, cross-country ski trails, snowshoeing, a lot of great opportunities for recreation there. And Auburn really offers a variety of recreational amenities that you wouldn't always find within a city, but they're all here and they're all very close to downtown. I think that about wraps it up on those slides. A couple of pictures from Lake Auburn, a little girl up in the top right with a couple of lake trout. That lake offers much better salmon fishing than you would ever expect within a city. A lot like Sebago, I guess, with the protections in place, but some outstanding trophy fish in that lake just minutes from downtown, and nice sunsets as well in the bottom left. Be happy to answer any questions, and I think that's it for recreation.
Thank you, Eric. So one of the things that Eric didn't mention when he was talking about Mount Appetite is that's also a gemstone, in case anybody doesn't know that. So there is a process that you can go through up there, I don't know, you get a permit or something, but you can actually do some prospecting for gemstones, which, if anyone's interested, another little hidden secret of the city of Auburn. We have gotten to the point now where we're going to get into the roundtable discussion, and we have some questions. I think they're on the next slide, and you also have them on your agenda in front of you. But we don't want to make this too formal a process. We want to have this a free-flowing discussion. I also would like to add that we do have a representative from Senator Collins' office here today, so we can use this process. Carlene's right here. We can use this process to ask more questions of staff, but what we'd really like to get is some feedback from all of you. Feedback on the presentation, some input on, for those of you who have done business in the city, what's working well, what you need from us as staff, what impediments to development have you seen here, or what are the opportunities? So this is kind of wide open, and we're really hoping to have a great discussion today. So who wants to go first? How about some feedback on the presentation?
I've got a question.
Yes.
I'm not shy. Eric, you mentioned about that DEP process, that you're basically saying we can, the 4 to 6 month period that it takes to get DEP approvals, you're saying we can bypass that by going straight to you?
For most projects, we can substitute a local review process, and you really just have to meet our planning board site plan review and special exception standards, and DEP allows us to substitute that and issue the permits on their behalf.
Okay. Well, while you're there, you want me to ask one more? Unless somebody else is busting at the seams. I just listed 1 Center Street, Stan and Doris Pelletier's building right in the corner. They just tore the building down. And I know that was up for a program with the drugstore. Walgreens. And what was the biggest hiccup in that not happening? I know there was the lights right there. It's confusing. It's already a 47-way intersection right there, so.
It's, at the time, it was the busiest intersection in the city. I think it still is. I'd have to double check that. And there are 5 legs to that intersection, so traffic was a definite challenge there. There was a traffic improvement proposed as part of that. We still have all the plans for that. That corrected some of the issues and allowed for another leg to be added to access Walgreens. But the access had to be on a right-of-way or a narrow strip of land that's owned by an abutter between Irving and the former gas station, and they just weren't able to work out a private deal to use that land. That was the biggest hang-up.
Have to overcome that.
We will.
Thanks.
So I've been involved with a few municipalities in different functions, and I don't think that I've ever seen a meeting like this take place where people are being brought together, and I've not also seen a community like Auburn that is so welcoming to development and redevelopment, and so there's some really exciting things going on here. When I first came here, Eric and Doug laid out the plan for me for the new Auburn master plan, and I fell in love with that. In the process of working up here, taking lunches, I've walked the walkway, and I've taken the bridge across from Auburn over to the Lewiston side, and you just kind of fall in love with this whole area. So you can see the potential for redevelopment of the downtown, and so that's one of the reasons why we really want to bring people together so that you've got an idea of what's going on up here, but what can we do to better work together with the economic development community as a whole, whether it's residential or commercial property. But that's why we wanted you here today, and we really want to get a working relationship going with all of you, and then expand it as we go along. But any other questions for staff, or comments on the presentation, or questions about what we've got up here?
I was wondering, I think this is a question for Doug around the New Auburn revitalization. Are there plans moving forward to bring that up the hill into the 5th, 6th, 7th Street, Cook Street, up South Main, in regards to what might be in place to help current owners revitalize, or to help bring, I work with a lot of investors as well, what might be in place to help bring some of them up from Portland? Because I am seeing that right now, as people recognize the value of purchasing in the Lewiston, Auburn area for their multi-units. What might be happening up that way.
I really appreciate that question. It's good for right now. It also will be a good question on February 7th. We want to make sure we'll get an invitation to you. We're having a follow-up, maybe a different topical roundtable for multifamily investment and also for rehabilitation, working with, we're reaching out to the owners of multifamily units to talk about that very topic. But back to your question, I didn't come prepared to go over the second tier of redevelopment, and it is part of the new Auburn Village plan. There's a number of street closures. I'd be glad to talk to you separately just to give you some more detail. But so that's the first tier. It's 3 or 4 blocks outward from the new Auburn planned village center. But up the hill is just what you're saying, and I would be looking to Yvette for some of the programs that the Community Development Block Grant Program works with for rehabilitation. So there's a lot of opportunity to work with either private property owners or investors. I mean, maybe Yvette, you'd like to speak to that a little bit. I think you could do a better job than myself. But again, February 7th, we want to make sure you all know about another meeting. It's from 5 to 7 right here.
Yes, so we do have programs available for residential multi-unit buildings for the owners. It's a rehab program, and they can do a full rehab. We are doing one right now on 5th Street. It's an 8-unit building, and it was involved in a fire, and so it needs a lot of work. And so we will be assisting that owner with that rehab project. We do loans. It's a 2% interest loan. Part of it is forgivable. 25% of the project would be forgivable. And the owners would need to come up with a match, 25% of the project cost, and the rest of it would be an amortized 2% loan. So that's what we have available for multi-unit owners.
So one of the other things that we've tried to do is find a way that we can highlight some of the commercial property that's for sale in the city of Auburn, so that if people are looking at our website and checking out what the city is, they can also check around and see what might be available out there for commercial property. So we do have on our economic development page a link to, I think it's LootNet, and that we know that doesn't cover all the commercial properties that are available in the city, but we'd like to find a way to work with some of the commercial brokers so that we can highlight your properties. We just want to make sure that when we do that, we keep up to date so that, you know, if something doesn't go under contract and for sale or get leased out, and then we're, you know, putting stale information out there. So if you have any ideas on that, if that seems like something that you'd like to be involved in, let us know. Because, you know, working together, and that's how we're going to be bringing people into the city. Yes?
Charles Large. I stumbled into the Auburn community about '89 and was director of sales and marketing for Pioneer Plastics at the time. And at that time, remiss, I haven't been to many meetings since then, but at that time I was at a meeting like this, and they asked what could they do. And I suggested we had one hotel in the area called Ramada and the other Coastline, and since then you've done an amazing job of putting some good hotels into our community. At the same time, I reflected bringing my family to this area and said to our CFO at the time, geez, it's a little discouraging bringing people into Auburn. And I said, what's the best route? And Pat Payton at the time said, well, at night. And I would still suggest that Washington would be a focus of our community because first impressions are just that. And I never hear about that first impression. So I would, you know, what are our impressions and what do you see trends? I would highly recommend first impressions.
Absolutely, thank you. Anyone else come in Washington Street today? Did you get off the Auburn exit and come in that long road on the way in? And so what were you thinking as you were driving in that way?
I would agree with them. If you're looking at it from that vantage point, as I'm going to move my family here and I'm coming up past Portland and Falmouth, et cetera, and you get off and there's not much there. I know I do have some clients that own a business over there with some land, and they're looking to see what they can do with that. And so I agree. You hit that section where there's not much going on, and especially as you kind of crest that hill, we've got a lot of rundown multifamilies, and you're not quite too sure what's going on there. And then you hit the big, closed down mill on the left side there. So, yeah, that's kind of an eyesore.
Well, the trip on the way out is prettier.
There's been rumors and discussions over the last 10 or 15 years about a potential another bypass into the downtown from the turnpike. Anybody get any feedback on that? Just continue to be rumors, or is there any meat on that bone?
I'll let Michael answer that one.
Well, the Turnpike Authority certainly isn't looking for any more exits or entrances right now. Yeah, we have, they've, 10 years ago, they did a couple of them on Broad Street and then down on the Lewiston Auburn side. In fact, they're sitting on my desk right now. And we may be looking at pushing for another turnpike exit in the future. The traffic flows and everything have to be updated. Some of the issues we had is people going through the downtown Auburn, and so that would have to tie into that. But we have some larger projects that look like they may be coming in if they warrant another exit and entrance. We'd certainly be looking at doing that. So it's not dead. I mean, Auburn's got only one, and Newport's got three for some reason. Lewiston only has one, the second largest city. So we could probably use another turnpike interchange.
Certainly would help the downtown. I mean, the downtown of Lewiston Auburn did not win any, we certainly got bypassed as far as the turnpike goes. I mean, the Falmouth Spur cuts across, and it's incredibly easy to get from the turnpike over to the Falmouth Spur, and you dump off right into the downtown of Falmouth, and, something similar would certainly help alleviate the Washington Street issue.
One of the things I was going to mention also in that same vein about that first impression, and I got that myself when I was looking to interview for my job here. And so one of the things that I've come across, I would feel safe to say that I believe this is correct. Our staff could jump up and say you're wrong, but as I understand it, the southbound lane of Washington Street has a right-of-way wide enough to be able to make that 4 lanes, and I believe that was the original intention. Eric, thank you, nodding your head, yes. So far, so good. So that was at least in place. Conversely, to try to do a beautification program on the entire corridor of Washington Street would be a really difficult thing. I've worked on corridor plans before. It's not easy to get people to buy into it. It's really lengthy and costly to get landscaping, to spruce up properties. So, in a sense, maybe that might be a directive. It would take a lot of thinking and planning to actually look at that again and see what would be necessary to get the funding to make that happen. But I think it's a beautiful corridor. It's not developed, so that might be an alternative to really getting a nice wooded approach into Auburn.
Thank you. Yes.
I agree. If you turn right when you get off the turnpike, they've come with some development of the Dunkin' Donuts and the couple of gas stations and things like that. But if you do turn left, but maybe some of Yvette's programs that target spatial housing or whatever it may be, or maybe you've got certain target areas in the downtown, but it's always in the downtown. And I know in Lewiston, they complain the same thing. People have got a little bit of money, they tend to go out in the outskirts of town and things like that, but they feel like, a lot of times citizens feel like this money gets spent on the downtown and we don't get the pluses of the extra money that comes in. They just want to continue to clean up the downtown. Maybe you could expand that target area to cover Washington Street too. Just a thought.
The target areas, these are all federal funds that we spend to those programs, so they're pretty much set by federal standards, and so we have a map of the target areas. I think we can look at that with the federal government to see if they can be expanded off of the old standards, but they also have been changing their standards where the housing goes in for for LMI housing to try to get them actually into some nicer neighborhoods so that when kids are growing up, they're growing up in a neighborhood that's more affluent.
Well, let me call Donald right now and see what he can do to change that. Never mind.
And I'll let Yvette follow up on that. But
So when we developed the target areas, the process that was used was, it was an urban blight study. So we had a person go out and they looked at housing and buildings in all of the areas of Auburn. And so those target areas were said to have the highest percentage of blighted property. I don't know that they did the Washington Street corridor. I was not here at the time, but we could certainly look into that to see if that corridor could be a blighted area and expand our target areas. We'll be doing a new 5-year consolidated plan in 2020. That would be the time to look at that again.
I think on a bigger scale, I think what Charles was talking about is that 30 years ago, there was this issue of Washington Street and the entrance into Auburn. And here we are 30 years later, sitting in a roundtable discussion talking about Washington Street. So I think on a larger scale, whether it's blighted or it's not, or it fits in your program or it's not, or you're looking for feedback, I think there's some really significant feedback from the people sitting at this table that Washington Street, or in some format, the entrance into Auburn is an issue. In some format. Now, it may not be Yvette's department, it may not be Michael's department, but it's an issue. Because it was 30 years ago. Once you get here, I think we would all agree that it's great, but you got to get from point A to point B.
And I think, then again, that's where municipalities and government comes in, is we're looking at more the long-term investments, and that's certainly something that we're here to have this input and then try to enact something. But doing something like that is going to take long-term planning, and we're willing to do that. That's what we're having these roundtables. We're not looking at a short-term growth. We're looking at a city that's been here for hundreds of years. It's going to be here for hundreds of years. So that's 100% of one of the reasons we're here is try to get this input. And also, before I forget, I want to see if we can elaborate on the properties. I mean, we get a lot of inquiries about people that want to come into Auburn with certain businesses, and that was brought up before, is how we can help with that. We don't want to step on real estate's toes, but we also don't want to have old information online. We do get inquiries probably weekly of properties that are available, so we're trying to do a database, but if we do a database, which we're willing to do, we'd like cooperation with that to make sure that it's updated and it's not a garbage database. So we're very open for input on that here or privately or email or on the phone, and my door is always open, but that's something we're trying to do, is line up vacant buildings and lots with businesses.
I would suggest that you can earmark your database directly with Catalyst, and I think that the commercial brokers here would probably agree that Catalyst and the Catalyst system is the one that is utilized the most on our end. Certainly LoopNet is used, but Catalyst seems to be the one that is more of our go-to. You can pull that, and
It might be
get
Catalyst that I've got up there.
you can get that feed directly, and that's going to alleviate the problem of properties pending, properties under contract. Are they available? Are they not available? Because we're not under restrictions, but we're certainly guidelined with timeframes to report under. So I think you can alleviate, and I'll look for feedback from the other brokers here, but I certainly think you could alleviate some of that issue with spearheading with Catalyst. And I think if you're getting that feed from Catalyst on your system, then that's about as good as you're going to get.
I think it might be Catalyst that I put up there. I started to put LoopNet up, and then I think I liked the Catalyst site better. They seem to have more properties on it, so it might be that one. Any other thoughts from any of the other brokers in the room about linking to a site?
I think if you can link to a site so that you're getting as real-time information as possible, that's the best that you can do.
Yes.
I'll just throw another thing out here, and I'm going to go back to the airport for a minute, because for 20-plus years, I've been hearing hopes and prayers of that airport taking commercial overflow and things like that. UPS came up here years ago. The Portland area, the Portland Jetport has, you've got Red Bank on one side, and it's pretty much expanded as much as it can expand other than up. And we've been in hopes for a long time. And I know it's a money issue, but since we have somebody here from Senator Collins' office, I thought I'd throw this out here, that this is something, like you said, we're the second and third largest cities in the state, Lewiston, Auburn, and it's a perfect, we're right off the turnpike. That would also help with your intermodal, your industrial area. It would help with the Washington Street area if people were flying in and coming in that area. So, and I know we've talked to, Rick had talked to several different airports 3 years ago, I know, and was talking about bids to what kind of commercial airlines could fly in here, but what they would need too, and it's always comes down to dollars and cents. So fix that.
Well, frankly, we did. We did. We gave the city airport some federal money to do a study on how to get a commercial, operation going, and so that's sort of where it is. I mean, the study's been done, but you've got to find a carrier willing to come in and do the work, obviously. So that's where I think, yeah. Right, so it's one of those things. I mean, and of course, there's the other argument that, it's 35 minutes from Portland, so, I'd like to just speak to Rick's other point when we were talking about the airport. I mean, the summer camp business is, it's cool and it's neat, and I think it's part of the conversation, but Bates College is a big player out at that airport. And they do a lot of in and out of that airport, and which also supports the summer camp program. But that area out there has a lot of federal investment, honestly, between the foreign trade zone and the airport, intermodal work that's done. But, and we certainly support an expansion if it's warranted. So.
Is there any idea, based on how long Lufthansa has left with their intention to be there, and when that facility may open up as a more modern facility for another carrier to use?
The building's going to be rented out by somebody. So if Lufthansa leaves, we've got somebody else that will come back in.
You do have.
It's not going to go vacant. If that's the concern.
So well, the question is, are there plans in place, or is that a way we can actually use to help start shopping for people to come in, knowing that they may have 3 years left, that they have a new modern servicing facility that someone could have available, to have someone lined up when they go, so we're not.
Lufthansa has those plans, I do not. I don't get included in all of the plans and all that stuff, so I'm going to tell you that they've got a plan going forward. What they've got a production end date and a flyaway date and all that stuff. Whether they're going to stay and create another program like they have other smaller airports throughout the world or not is one of the questions that we have put in front of them. We've not gotten a definitive answer yet. I don't think they know. Economics play a large portion of that also. But that doesn't stop us from going out and finding more facilities just like that one to develop and bring in new jobs. It doesn't prohibit us from capitalizing on some of the 9 other areas of revenues and doing what else we can do other than passenger service. So we're definitely working on all of that at this point.
Well said, Sarah?
I'm going to pose a question to you all, or at least maybe put Kevin, sorry, on the spot just a little bit. It was something that intrigued me. I tend to take notes and write things down, try to keep track of what's going on during meetings. And I was especially interested in the trends that came up during that meeting. And one of the things that struck me was an opportunity. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Is there were a number of Mayfair facilities opening up, I think Brunswick and some other locations. But I think the word Amazon came up as they hadn't really made a presence up here. And do you know anything about online sales opportunities like that? Which would help the airport.
You're talking about the Merida conference, Doug? The information that came from that? Kevin?
On the spot. That's okay. I guess I don't necessarily understand the question entirely. I think if you're talking about the impact of e-commerce and distribution, okay, then, certainly e-commerce is certainly grounded itself in the country. So, that's not going away. Whether or not I would necessarily say Lewis and Auburn can capitalize on the warehouse and distribution of e-commerce, I think we kind of have with Walmart and the distribution center, and that was, that's been built. And Maine as a secondary market is going to struggle from that regards because if you were going to say, okay, locate in, say, 93 in Boston or something where you could hit most of New England, then that might be a bigger, a better opportunity. But on a smaller scale, if you're trying to service Maine, I think Lewis and Auburn is the distribution hub. I think Lewis and Auburn is where you should be if you're trying to service Maine. I think one of the untapped potentials that we have also is the distribution and rail access through to Canada. Okay, and the fact that we can get rail in from Vancouver, British Columbia, which is one of the largest ports on the West Coast. So we can get goods and merchandise from Asia through Vancouver, British Columbia, and all the way into, and import into the United States through Auburn. I mean, there's a lot of potential as it relates to warehouse distribution in LA, or in this particular case in Auburn, but it's a big picture. I think if you take a look at the microdynamics of the fact that we have access to Vancouver, or the fact that we have access to the, whatever it was, 3/4 of the state's population within a 30-mile radius. I mean, these are things that are potential for the city of Auburn, but how to get those people here and how to relay that information does that answer your question?
Great, thanks, appreciate it.
Well done.
Yeah, I think we were thinking we'd love to get Amazon up here. Because there was quite a bit of conversation about that at the Merida conference.
Yeah, but we've gotten distribution companies up here. I mean, we have. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Kellogg is still out there, and we have some pretty significant distribution facilities inside the Twin Cities. Now granted, a fairly significant chunk of them have landed in Lewiston, and I think that there are some things that Auburn can do to put a little bit better foot forward is in the industrial sector, okay?
What do you think those are, Kevin? You're among friends.
Well, I mean, let's call it what it is, right? I mean, we're competing with one of the largest, industrial developers probably in the state of Maine across the river, who owns his own land, owns his own construction company, and owns his own excavation company. So we're frankly, at the end of the day, Auburn, for any development for industrial warehousing or distribution, is competing directly against Dave Gendron. So, I mean, how can we compete? And it's going to be just strictly a case of economics. I mean, if Dave and his broker sitting right next to me, I mean, if Dave wants a deal, he's going to get it. But we're going to have to be competitive with putting up a 50,000 foot, or go directly to the user, and the user, and maybe the user like Walmart wants to build their own facility. So I mean, there are some things that we can do, but FedEx has come, Max Finkelstein came, Walmart came, Kellogg's is here. I mean, there are companies that are using Lewis and Auburn as their distribution for the state of Maine. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to pure economics. And I think if we're either going to have to partner up with somebody like Dave that if they want the deal, they're going to build it, or we're going to have to try to get really, really competitive.
So what's Auburn's best asset for those of you who've been around for a while, what would you say? If you were trying to bring someone up here, what would you be touting as the greatest part of Auburn? Come on.
I guess community in general. It's always had a reputation back when the mills were real active as Auburn was the bedroom community to Lewiston. Lewiston was the industrial area, and which I try to change that if I'm selling houses in Lewiston versus selling houses in Auburn. Depends who I'm talking to. But the communities are real nice. The housing areas are real nice. And I think you've got a good, you offer everything here, quite a bit of everything. I think there's still room to grow as we talk about the airport and the railroad and continuing to develop industrial. I can't remember, years ago I heard that Auburn was, like, area-wise, one of the largest cities in the country. I mean, something, one of the largest per square foot per person or something like that. It was a huge area, so I think there's room to grow and room to develop, and that's going to attract more and more people as the economy changes during the next 4 years. I'm not getting into that.
Quality of life and location,
Yeah.
hour from the ocean, hour from the mountains, is a good school system for, both public and private.
They got a McDonald's.
Raise a family.
Did you say we have McDonald's?
Got McDonald's.
But do we have a Five Guys Burgers and Fries?
I mean, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that we are only 30, 35 minutes from Portland. I mean, Portland is still the economic hub of Maine and always will be. You know, and the fact is that we're still only a short 30, 35-minute drive. You know, I live right off of Hardscrabble Road in Auburn. I'm 35 minutes door to door to my office, and I park in DeMillo's, and that's right. I mean, you don't get any more in downtown Portland than DeMillo's parking lot. You know, so you know, the fact that we're 30, 35, 40 minutes from Portland, it's an asset.
So other than that, when Southern Maine, when Portland, South Portland, Westbrook, Scarborough are already starting to overflow, and you're seeing the spillover into Cumberland and Falmouth and areas like that, instead of having people go into those areas, how do we pull them up to Auburn? What do we do? More than just the proximity, you know, the closeness, but, you know, how else do we sell Auburn to get people to realize that, hey, this is a real option for you to come here if you're either priced out of that southern market or you're just looking for something different? Yeah.
Well, a good portion of the presentation we were just given was about how impoverished it is and how our efforts and programs are to refurbish the impoverishment and not to enhance the strengths.
So to go out and sell the programs that we're offering to help people out, is that what you're saying?
I think that you enhance the strengths. I don't know, I haven't been affiliated with Pioneer for a number of years. I still have a heart towards them. They have closed when Panalam bought Nevamar, at that time the third largest laminate manufacturer. The president closed the facility in Baltimore, moved it and enlarged the North Carolina facility. Since then, they've closed the North Carolina facility and moved all production to Auburn, Maine. I hope we've rolled the red carpet out for them.
So for the bankers in the room, are you hearing much inside talk about, you know, changes coming down with the new administration, maybe loosening up on some of the restrictions for either residential or commercial properties? Probably more on the residential side is what I've heard, but what are you hearing inside? Nothing. Quiet.
One of the things that I heard at Norway Savings Bank, not directly answering your question, but a little bit of feedback in general for the city. We built a number of branches, been growing quite a bit in Maine, and the reception and the way we were treated in Auburn was far superior to many other locations we've gone into. So it was fast, very business-friendly, and very reasonable, I think, for the developers of the building that we're in, and then right on up through the signing permits and that type of thing. So that was really tremendous.
Thank you, that's always great to hear.
I think unrelated that we haven't touched on yet, based on trying to attract more business here, is workforce development problems that we've been seeing. I mean, we've been focused more on Western Maine and the problem we're having at 4.5% and not having even a skilled workforce, but even a willing workforce, and trying to find a way to maximize that. I don't know if Auburn still has that problem, and I mean, rumors about certain businesses not opening for that same purpose as well still abound. I mean, whether that's fixing the residential side to get more people up here, or trying to find a way to push workforce to be more willing to step up and actually take jobs, whether they have to or not, or expand.
You know, we have several companies that we're looking to expand that are having a hard time because of the workforce development, but we did put a group together. We've been working on that with the state and local representatives and some businesses, and anybody's welcome to join us with that. A lot of people having problems with the trades and truck drivers. There's a shortage of cement truck drivers and plumbers and carpenters and such. And in all actuality, the state has a good program for training, but we also have we're setting up programs for workforce development training in the city of Auburn itself, so we have been addressing that. Then again, we're Auburn, Maine, we can't fix the whole state of Maine, but we're looking to make sure we can enhance that workforce development and match people up with these jobs. Then again, so the training, we don't have a brain drain in Maine again, that we're actually training people for jobs that are here or creating the jobs, the future jobs that they're trained to go into. So it's a concern for us, and it's you know, a good problem when you have more jobs and you have people to fill it, but we've got room for growth for housing too. That's why we're meeting with people that do housing development, is also match up the housing with that.
When you've got 5 colleges and 6,000 students in Lewis and Auburn, I'm really perplexed at the fact of where are these students going. I mean, I can maybe understand Bates is graduating a significant class and they're not sticking around, but you know, the LA College and University of Maine system and Central Maine Community College, and you know, where are these students going? I mean,
Truthfully, the biggest loss that we've had in the workforce has been the trades field. And in the last 5 years, I think the number I got from Woodard and Curran, it was a large engineering group, is that we lost 20% of our people to trades, just moving out of state to go, either going out of business or moving out of state to work, to have other jobs. And then when the economy turned around, here we are, we're shorthanded. You can't find an engineer. Electricians are hard to find, plumbers, and so the trades are really, I believe now if you have a child that goes through, you know, two years of trade school, when they get done and graduate, they're going to have a better job than someone who went through 6 years of college in this current time because of the need for that workforce. So we do have a need that's not being filled right now, but it was caused, a lot of it was caused by people moving out due to the economy.
I don't know how many of you were at the Merida conference a couple weeks ago, but on the website, they've got the whole presentation that was done, and there was some interesting statistics about kids going on to college, kids going directly into the workforce right now instead of going to college at all. We had the president of the community college system was there and spoke, and I think that that whole trend of going away from the trades is starting to, well, it's coming back to haunt us, and I think that the college system is starting to see that and wanting to bring back some of those programs. Of course, a lot of that is also going to depend on what money is available to reinstitute some of those programs, but it isn't something that's, the entire state is going through that process or that problem of not having workers. Municipal government is also going through that. It's hard to find people who want to be plumbing inspectors or code enforcement officers or assessors. even city managers, it's hard. The numbers, police officers and firefighters, fewer and fewer are coming up through. So another problem that we're highlighting at Merida, and we keep hearing, is that we also have a shortage of young people coming up, Maine being the oldest state in the country. And if we don't start bringing some young people into this state, there aren't going to be a lot of people to fill those jobs. So it's a problem everywhere. I don't know where the kids are going, but they're not staying here and they're not filling those jobs. So I think we're all in the same boat. Maine Municipal Association is also working with the Maine Development Foundation to try to find a way to work with businesses and municipalities to start to bring people in and get them interested, having huge job fairs that, you know, reach across the spectrum of businesses that are out there to try to interest people in some of these jobs that are just going unfilled. Retail industry is the same way. Any other thoughts before we end up wrapping up today, or more questions for staff, because they're all here ready to answer and help you out? If people brought business cards with you, if you want to leave them with us too, we'd appreciate having that. I'll update my database to make sure that I've got everyone's information. Any questions before? Seems we're about ready to wrap up, I think.
I want to thank everybody for showing up, and Rick did a great job, kind of got put on a spot a couple times here, but he did a great job down there, very knowledgeable at the airport. And you know, our office is always open, and we're always open for suggestions. Our website's getting better and better every day. We have a genius back there in the back row that works on our GIS, and I think you'll be very impressed if you go on that. I've been very impressed with the staff since I've been here, and I'd like to thank them for doing a great job today, too. But we're always welcome for feedback and ideas, and I think we're going to keep moving forward. I'm very optimistic about the future of the city of Auburn. Thank you for showing up. Rick, did you want to say something?
I think we're good. Thank you all for being here. And one more question, though, I did want to ask. What did you think of this type of atmosphere, this type of session? Should we continue to do this? How often should we do it? Quarterly, once a year, twice a year? What do you think? Is it worth spending the time here to talk about these types of issues?
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know that it needs to be more than every 6 months.
6 months?
Yep.
Sound good? Well, good. Then in that case, make sure that I have all of your...
By McDonald's next time.
McDonald's, okay. We'll have to get your favorite food. Make sure I do have your business cards, though, so I've got all of your information up to date. And thank you so much for being here. And also, please don't forget to give me your name tags on your way out. Thank you.